The Agenda with Steve Paikin is made possible through generous philanthropic contributions from viewers like you. Thank you for supporting TVO's journalism.
Tonight on The Agenda.
People that are like us are like trying to get into the workforce. It's very difficult when we're also facing clawbacks of our money that we're making, and we're also being discriminated against when we're trying to apply to jobs. Like, how is that fair?
Community Living Ontario was hoping for a 5% funding increase from the province for the developmental services sector, which it said was vital for its survival. The provincial government came up short on that plea, and as a result, the organization and its 119 agencies have cut down services or sold property to pay their bills. But with thousands of people on the waiting list for housing and no financial relief in sight, can these organizations afford to keep the lights on? Let's ask. In Hamilton, Ontario, Monique Taylor, NDP MPP for Hamilton Mountain and critic for Children, Community and Social Services. Chris Beasley, CEO of Community Living Ontario. Nico Pupella, Council Treasurer of Community Living Ontario. And Susan Silma, sister of an adult with an intellectual disability and a volunteer with Community Living Toronto. Welcome all. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Monique, for joining us virtually as well. Chris, I'm going to start with you. What is Community Living Ontario, and breakdown, because there's a structure there as well.
Right, yeah. It's Community Living Ontario was founded 71 years ago by a group of local organizations who were concerned about supporting people who have intellectual disabilities in their communities. And so previously to that, people used to just go to institutions and lived there throughout their lives. And over time, we realized that probably wasn't the best idea to support people. So in the 1950s, that's where local associations started springing up. And Community Living Ontario was a response to recognition for a need for a provincial voice, an advocacy voice, a voice that could help coordinate issues and priorities and supports for people who have intellectual disabilities.
And we had mentioned there's 119 agencies, so that's spanning the entire province as well.
Yeah, we're in most towns and cities across the province, and part of a larger system in developmental services where there are some 200 organizations who actually provide supports around the province.
All right, Nico, with a housing and affordability crisis right now in this province, why is it that these services are even more vital in the community?
Well, having gone through a housing crisis myself, I was actually out of my apartment for over a year and a half. So being on the actual receiving end of that was very different. And just the lack of support I received from the region regarding it was very poor. I don't wish it on anybody, obviously, but I mean, obviously it's happening everywhere, and having the services in place makes it easier for people to get the help they need. And when staffing are getting cut back, it makes it very difficult for people to do their daily things that they need to do. Like an example, if someone needs to do shopping, they have their staff supports in place. If you're in a supported independent living program and say that staff has to cancel because of something coming up, that puts that person out of being able to do their supports, and then they're stuck doing it on their own. Is that fair to them? No. But it's also not fair to the staff that they're having to cut services back. So you've seen it from both ends.
All right, I'm going to grab Monique. We're going to crunch the numbers shortly, but tell me what's at stake for people with intellectual disabilities if the organization doesn't get immediate financial relief?
Absolutely. The services and the homes that are provided under the umbrella of community living are vital to our communities. We see so many families now who are desperate to be able to get into those homes. I believe we have 14,000 people on wait lists and adding 1,200 each and every year. So families are absolutely desperate to make sure that their loved ones have safe, affordable supportive housing so that they can now live their lives peacefully also, right? So the fear factor of what people are seeing and what parents are currently telling me of how scared they are is devastating. So I'm shocked, quite frankly, that the government didn't provide the 5% that was required and necessary.
Susan, same question to you. What's at stake?
So my story is actually a personal one. My brother Robert has an intellectual disability, and he's lived with my mom all his life. Over the years, we've done the best as a family to provide the supports that he needs to teach him what we could and to include him in community activities and programs. But with the advice of some professionals in the sector, years ago, we made an application for supported living, like a housing placement for him. And we got a letter back indicating that we were on a waiting list. Fast forward to early last year, and my brother still lived with my mother, and she is now in her 90s and he is in his 50s, and we hit a crisis point. It had been 36 years since that waiting list letter arrived, and we had to figure out how to do something to get them out of that crisis. So the long-term care sector is pretty difficult to navigate, and we had that with my mom, but we had a path forward that we identified there. And I've been involved with the sector as a volunteer for many years, and I thought I knew how to navigate a little bit, but I found it almost a full-time job to find out where my brother was on the waiting list, figure out how we could get him up the waiting list and actually get him a housing placement. At the end of the day, we did find a place for him, and I'm very grateful. He's now in a group home arrangement and is supported by lovely people, so I am very grateful, but he doesn't any longer have the opportunity to live independently. He's now being, I'll call it taken care of at his stage in life. And my mother hasn't had the opportunity to ever see his new room and his new setup because his room is in the basement and her mobility doesn't allow her to get down there. So some missed opportunities, honestly, and 36 years of waiting.
Frustrating, and I know you had mentioned bittersweet as well.
Bittersweet.
All right. As we know, it's Community Living Month, and just 2 weeks ago, Monique, you were at Queen's Park asking the Minister of Children, Community and Social Services, Michael Parsa, about the lack of base funding the organization is facing. Let's have a look at that clip.
We are investing more than $3.4 billion on developmental services this year. That, Mr. Speaker, is over $1 billion more than the previous government was doing. Now, why do I mention that, Mr. Speaker? It's because the NDP held the balance of power for 3 years, Mr. Speaker. You've been here long enough to know what you can do when you hold the balance of power. They could have forced the Liberals to invest more in amazing partners who are doing great work across our province. Order. They didn't. They failed the people of this province. It took this Premier, it took this caucus to stand up for people on developmental disability across the province and say, we will have your back, just as we have since we formed government.
Now, I should mention we reached out to the minister to join us on this panel, but he was unavailable. But his office did provide a statement that reads in part, the 2024-25 budget includes an investment of $310 million over 3 years to address increasing operational costs for targeted community organizations such as those involved with people with disabilities. In addition, effective April 21st, 2022, our government made the temporary wage enhancement permanent through the creation of the Personal Support Workers and Direct Support Workers Permanent Compensation Enhancement Program. This increase applies to eligible workers delivering publicly funded direct support services in the social services sector. Now, Monique, obviously in that clip, you got to respond there to Michael Parsa. I'm going to give you an opportunity to respond to that statement as well.
For sure. Look, I believe in the last 30 years, community living has had a 3.9% increase in 30 years. So, I mean, this isn't just new to this government. This has been decades of governments going backwards. And it's not okay. These are our most vulnerable residents. We have to ensure, it is our duty, our responsibility to ensure there is whole housing for these folks, and that the 14,000 people who are waiting, their families will have an opportunity to make sure, just like Susan's brother, right, that he has that safe home, and that mom knows and been to visit and can see that he's safe and that life's okay. The way that the system's set up, built on crisis, is just not okay.
All right, Chris, I hope you can paint the picture for us a little bit about the financial crisis that is going on within that sector. Talked about the 3.9 over 30 years. That not even 1% here, right? Well under that. Paint us the picture.
So yeah, Monique's right. Over those 30 years, a cumulative 3.9% investment in the sector. In the same time period, you've got about a 60% increase in the cost of living. So an additional 2% obviously doesn't cover the gap. 2% is better than 0%. Don't get me wrong, but I think the minister would also agree there's a lot more to be done. And so we, certainly look forward to engaging with he and his government on that basis. It's 3.4 billion. Sounds like a big number, but relative to what? And so when you've got 14,000 people who are waiting for those residential supports, obviously 3.4 billion isn't enough. And so it becomes a number that in the scope of things, the government spends over $200 billion a year. That's a much bigger number. So what is reasonable and appropriate to support people? And when you see people in crisis, like Susan was referring to, sometimes parents have to die before they get that support, before a loved one is supported in their living arrangement, and that's just not right. I mean, is it reasonable to think that as a parent, you have some assurance that your son or daughter will be looked after? And sometimes parents have come up to me and said, I hope my child dies before me. Before me. Can you imagine as a parent that they would want that? And it's not because they don't love their child. They love them so desperately that at least they would know that what happened to them and what became of them. And so that's where we're at when you talk about 14,000 people. That's 14,000 families, 14,000 times however many people, right? There's tens of thousands of people who are affected. And we just think that more can be done and needs to be done right now.
The organizations have been underfunded for years. We get that. How did that create a gap between staff in the developmental services sector and those in health or education? For example, I had mentioned in the quote there that there's mention of the PSW workers program and stuff, but it's a little bit more complicated than that. It's not as simple. It's
a lot more complicated than that, but yeah, it's a great question, and I think it goes back to where we as society and as a reflection of society, where government places its priorities. And we tend to invest in things that we find value in. Traditionally and historically, we haven't found value in people who have an intellectual disability. Quite frankly, we think that they're not as productive, they don't contribute as much, they're a net liability. And so you only invest in those things where you have priority, where you find value. And so by extension, support workers, how are you supposed to value them to the extent that we value educational workers and hospital workers, because that affects all of us? And so I think as a society, people generally think, well, those people are looked after. So government must be looking after those people. But I think if we could, you would think, but it's not the case. And I think, Nico's is living proof that people are very capable, have a lot to contribute, and are doing things every day that contribute to society. And they might need some support to do that. But so let's invest in people's lives and in community and in inclusion. And I think by, at the end of the day, we're all better off because of it.
All right, so Nico, tell me about on the front lines, what's the advocacy work that you're doing? Obviously, Queen's Park is not the only place that you guys are doing your work.
No, so we've also developed presentations. We're continuing to develop presentations on various topics, aging in place, making sure that people can actually live where they want to, with whom they want to live with, and still be part of their community. We're working on a few other ones that are coming up. My actual local group that I'm part of, we're doing a webinar this afternoon on accessibility and housing. So again, touching on those two main things, that it's a huge barrier to a lot of people. And I love the work that we do, honestly. I mean, I hope to continue doing that even if I'm not part of it, but it's still a huge piece of the puzzle.
You were at Queen's Park not that long ago as well. Tell us more about the hashtag 5to Survive campaign that's been rolled out.
So it's, again, like trying to get that extra push to help the local agencies be able to support people. And when they're seeing the drastic cut and the number that we obviously see, it's hurting everybody. I mean, like my friend who's part of her group in Guelph, hers is facing a lot of restrictions. Ours up in the north is facing restrictions, and it's not.
What type of restrictions?
So like staff cutbacks, not getting enough support for people that need it, whether it's like their daily living, doing different Like, there's a lot of factors. It's like I couldn't just name one. It affects it as a whole. And especially with what I went through with my housing crisis, that was more to do with actually the tornado that went through my town. But again, it's those resources. How are people supposed to access them? Are they getting the appropriate resources and funding to help them when they're faced with those crises? So it's very challenging.
Monique, I'm going to come to you. Tell us a little bit more in terms of the reception to the campaign itself. Is there a movement?
Well, I had the number of actual petitions signed to date. And it's over 10, like it's the tens of thousands of people who have signed these petitions, knowing that we have to be able to keep these doors open. With 14,000 people on wait list and with houses actually closing, it's only going to get that much worse. And that's why shows like this are so important, to be able to raise the attention, to be able to have folks actually hear what's going on. Unless it affects you directly, you would have no idea what's happening in community living homes and within the sector as a whole. So we need this. I put myself in we, but folks need this money. We have to be able to keep these doors open. We have to make sure that there's suitable vehicles, that the staff is able to retain staff. They're the lowest paid in the sector, and the minister talks about is good because they were literally making not much more than minimum wage and taking care of our most vulnerable sector of folks, right? A lot of responsibility and a lot of time put in, a lot of heart and a lot of compassion needs to go into those jobs, and to not respect them and pay them properly has been a problem, right? So they're still not up to the wages that we would like to see them at, but we have to do better. We have to do better making sure that it's that social care infrastructure that is stable and strong in our communities to make sure that we keep people working in the sector.
Susan, not only as a first-hand experience, waiting 36 years for your brother to get home, but as a longtime volunteer as well. There are many more people on that waiting list. How's that putting pressure on families? What does that look like?
So before we hit the crisis point last year, we were actually stepping in as a family to support my mom and my brother pretty much every day. And we also found a way to hire some support workers, some PSWs, things like that. So we cobbled together a solution, but it got harder and harder to keep that working as their needs increased. And all the same challenges, right? Turnover of PSWs, turnover of support people. So it is very difficult and puts pressure on a family. But what I would say is actually the hardest thing alludes to something that Monique said. You don't have a clear path forward as a family. There's no transparency about where you are on the wait list or when you might be offered a spot. God forbid that Chris is right and you have to wait to die before your loved one gets a spot. But so having a clear idea of a path forward for your loved one with an intellectual disability would be wonderful. And then I would also say that the difficulty that I found as someone with some experience with the sector navigating, it's not exactly client friendly. So the client experience or the family experience could be much better and make the whole process, which is already difficult, a whole lot easier.
I had read, the importance of getting access quickly. That would have, it's hard to look back now, but, in your particular situation with your brother, do you think that would have helped him in his life? Just being able to, not wait 36 years, but to have that earlier? I mean, sure. I think he missed out on all kinds of opportunities that he would have been able to take advantage of with greater independence. And so someone asked me, once, do you think your brother lived his best life? And I think he has a great life, but I think he missed out on having an even better best life, which is all we could hope for any of us. Chris, are you optimistic for the economic statement coming this fall? Is that where your eyes are glued to right now?
I mean, I have to be optimistic. That goes with, as a father and in my role, yeah, you have to be optimistic. I think, again, the work continues, the advocacy continues. So, we're hopeful that we can continue to work with the government and get the kind of investment that we desperately need.
What's the work that needs to happen now up until the economic fall statement?
Oh gosh, it's more of what we've been doing. We talked about 5 to survive, and it's keep that the pedal to the metal, as they say. I mean, we've got great engagement in our communities, within our membership, with our families, and with self-advocates, people with lived experience. It's trying to get that message out. It's kind of like remember Dr. Seuss, Horton Hears a Who?
Right.
We're here, we're here, right? And we need to get that message loud and clear and keep on it, so that the government understands that this is a clear and present danger to people, as well as an opportunity to do the right thing.
Are there other venues for perennial funding that can help?
Depending on the individual circumstances, for example, if there is some medical complexity, then we look to the healthcare system. If they're while people younger, they're in school, we look to the education system to provide those supports and make sure people are well supported. So it's just like everybody else, we look to government to provide those supports where we need them, when we need them. And I guess for, within community living, our obviously our priorities on people who have intellectual and developmental disabilities. So what is the appropriate support for the person at the time? And we do a great job of that, and we can do an even better job if we have the proper tools and resources.
Monique, I'm going to bring back that question. What are your hopes for the economic statement coming out this fall?
That we see that 5% solid, and not a one-time funding, but solid, sustainable funding that community living homes know they can count on year after year. They're cutting back on their capital costs, so houses will start to crumble, which will take away from those beds and those homes that we already have in the system. So that those funds have to be there. I will plea with the government to please make sure that they see vulnerable people as an asset to our communities, and that they know that taking care of our most vulnerable residents is the right direction for thousands and thousands and thousands of families who are counting on these support systems to help them get through and to make sure that people can live their best lives.
And Monique raises a great point there, though, around sustainability, right? So thinking that every year or every 6 months, trying to get some sort of increase. If there was a path forward to sustainability and a multi-year commitment that said, we're gonna index increases to the cost of living, or something that gives us a path forward, so that our organizations can actually plan for doing better rather than planning a retreat and a downsizing in services.
I did want to follow up on the funding. A lot of it is we're talking public dollars here. We're talking, when you mentioned healthcare, you mentioned education. Is there an opportunity in the private sector to get involved as well?
Listen, there's always opportunities for people and organizations to come to the table with resources and supports that are appropriate to the person. Whether it's not-for-profits or public or private rather. Obviously we're biased to the nonprofit sector, and that's where our history is, and we think that that's the most effective use of resources, and certainly more effective than having people in long-term care homes or in hospital settings that end up being far more expensive and inappropriate for people. So it's effective use of resources. We think we do a really good job of it because we've got over 70 years of experience in it. We already made all the mistakes, so we know what we're talking about, and we know what inclusion looks like, and we know how to bring people together and belong in the community.
All right, my last question is to all three here in studio, only because Monique had the opportunity to ask the minister this question. But Nico, we'll start with you. What do you want to tell the government to understand when making the budget to help community living agencies across Ontario?
Well, I mean, to view us as an actual person, not as a number or a statistic. I mean, Chris said earlier that people that are like us are trying to get into the workforce. It's very difficult when we're also facing clawbacks of our money that we're making, and we're also being discriminated against when we're trying to apply to jobs. How is that fair? I mean, I see it every day, I hear it every day. It's just stop looking at us as a number. Treat us like a regular human being. Yeah, we're different, but that's who we are. We're unique in our own way. Don't view us as a number.
All right, Susan.
So I love Nico's answer, and I'm going to piggyback on it a little bit. I actually think that there's a lot to be said for that. It really is about thinking about the value that these individuals can bring to us as a society. But we need to then support them properly and make sure that we permit them and encourage them to be fully included in all kinds of aspects. And that's what I would ask, building on your wonderful answer, Nico.
Chris, you get the last word.
Wow, I mean, great words. So I don't know if I can do any better than that. But, you know, listen, Minister Parse is a good guy, right? He wants to do right by people. He wants to be able to invest in the sector. I think this is broader than strictly the Ministry of Children, Community and Social Services. This is an all-of-government issue, and putting priority to our most vulnerable and investing in the sector that has been starving for 30 years.
All right.
Hard to imagine 30 years. Jeez.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
All right. Chris, Susan, Nico, Monique, thank you so much for joining us on the program, sharing your expertise and your personal stories, and hopefully we will continue this conversation.
Definitely.
Thanks very much.
Thank you for having us.
So good. Thank you so much.
More people, of course, are living longer, many with better quality of life. Even still, aging parents often require support and care they've never needed before. Laura Tamblyn Watts is president and CEO of CanAge, a national seniors advocacy organization. She's got a new book out aimed at improving communications when the roles reverse, when the adult children suddenly find themselves the informal caregivers of their older parents. The book is called Let's Talk About Aging Parents, a real-life guide to solving problems with 27 essential conversations. Laura Tamblyn Watts also lectures at the University of Toronto's Factor Inwentosh Faculty of Social Work, and she joins us now. Great to have you back here at TVO.
Always great to be on the show.
Is there something particularly timely about why you wanted to write this book now?
All of the time, in every circumstance, these days, we're talking about aging parents, but we're talking about it and pulling our hair out. What we haven't actually had is ways to have a kitchen table conversation and still be liking each other enough to have dinner at the table afterwards. And that is what prompted it.
Every poll I've ever seen says people want to live at home in familiar surroundings for as long as they can. I think we also know that the healthcare system, such as it is, home care, supportive care, PSWs, all that, it cannot handle that right now. So how's this going to work exactly?
We've never had this demographic shift. I mean, you can't open the newspaper or turn on the radio without hearing about our aging demographic. That's fine, but we need to move to some solutions, and certainly our healthcare system isn't going to be the backbone, and it's already not, but that's going to be under even greater pressure. So what we're going to see is families, and I define that in the broadest possible terms, supporters, people who are part of our close-knit community, they're going to have to lean in, and they're not just leaning in by providing some emotional support or even a little bit of tech support. It's actually financial. It's really health care in a heavy type of care environment. And it's also trying to think about preventive ways to stop those triggering events like falls from happening.
Well, let me follow up on that. Do you think, based on your experiences with lots of people who are dealing with this, are we ready for the complexity of care to come?
Oh, not even beginning to be ready for it. But what families are saying is they are having this thrust upon them. And because we're having a different type of care relationship and the number of adult children, and again, I use that term really very broadly, used to be, you'd have 8 kids and 2 parents, and you could kind of divide it up. And if someone didn't have a good relationship, maybe that one kid doesn't involve themselves. What we call our caregiver burden has switched. And my experience, which I have 6 aging parents in my life, is not an unusual one because there's different marriages and there's different systems and fewer children. And so that means we need to be really creative for how we actually help to support our aging parents and not assume that our healthcare system is going to do it for us.
You used a word there, though, the caregiver burden. We don't, I mean, I know we don't like to think of it as a burden to take care of our parents as they age, because after all, they took care of us when we were just wee little ones growing up. But is it a burden?
Look, it is. I mean, it's hard in the same way that actually having young children is a burden. It doesn't mean it's not also a joy.
Okay.
It doesn't mean it's not purposeful and meaningful. It doesn't even mean that it's not something you'd want to sign up for. It's really hard. And it's getting harder because we have fewer and fewer resources. Unless you're truly rich, getting full-time care at the home, between $100,000 and $300,000 a year. That's just not the basis for most people.
People don't believe that. I know, because I've had this conversation with a lot of people lately. And when you find out 6 big figures is what it costs to make this happen, people aren't ready for this, are they?
They're really not ready for it. And they're not ready for the fact that options are very limited as well. And so they think, well, I'll just go to long-term care. Well, about 43,000 people in Ontario are on the waiting list. And I think that's an underestimation as of this year. And the degree of frailty that we have even in our retirement homes, which we designed to be places of active living, average age is 86 in a retirement home, and at least 40% of a diagnosis of dementia. And if that's a diagnosis, there's lots more than that there.
So they say it's active living, but there's a lot of inactive living going on in those settings.
It's a very frail environment, generally.
Right. Let's do an excerpt from the book here. Let's set some expectations at the very beginning. People don't change much. Even when it comes to everyday or emergency care for your aging parent, if your macho brother was always too busy to help around the house, chances are he's not going to be volunteering to scrub your mom's kitchen every day. Some folks may surprise you, though, so starting off by including everyone in this conversation can really help. Okay, how do we start here? Somebody, I presume, if you've got multiple siblings or cousins or however you're doing it, someone's got to take the lead, right? Is that how it starts?
Usually someone takes the lead unless nobody takes the lead, and that actually happens too. So let's not presume the family is really well coordinated. Let's not assume that all the relationships are loving and wonderful, because most families, there's complexity to them. So this book kind of calls a spade a spade. Who has mental health issues? Who's living in Vancouver and only comes for every other Christmas? Who's actually doing the care at home, but perhaps is struggling with drug and alcohol addictions and has never actually had a job, but they're the ones who've at home because they're not that busy, because they're not that employed. Real families are complicated. Usually there's somebody that takes the lead, or something happens and then they all get called together to try to figure out how to problem solve it.
And is there invariably a disproportionate burden on one sibling versus another?
There often is. I mean, it's, we give these archetypes to it as well. So it's, the good school teacher, daughter is often the one, or, the financial manager son. We give these, archetypes to it. And sometimes they exist for a reason. There's something to that. It's true that there is generally more involvement by women than men. Having said that, that's starting to switch around a little bit. It's not quite as stereotypical as it used to be. And some of that is because technology is starting to play an interesting role. And the book starts talking about, what can you do to actually use tech in a positive way? And for financial management and support, so much of it can be done online now or on an app. And so you don't necessarily have to be at the house or at the bedside as much to provide some forms of support.
Let me give you, for instance, though, if you've got, let's say, multiple children in the case, 3 or 4 kids, and they've got parents who are ailing and need help, and there's one kid who's just irresponsible and really has never been much of a help along the way, is it in your interest, is it in your better interest to try to convince that reprobate to, pull up his socks and chip in, or is it better to write him off and say, you know what, we can't rely on them, let's just forget it and we'll do it ourselves?
Well, as a lawyer, I don't teach in the faculty of law for a reason. I teach in the faculty of social work, because most of these issues are people problems. They're not really legal or financial problems. I think it's important to really understand who people are and be okay with that. If your brother's got drug and alcohol addictions or has always been the one that's been living on mom's dime, that's not going to change. So understand who they are and what they need and what their expectations are. And again, try to understand that the personality types are pretty baked in by this time. I wrote this book for people 35 to 75 because I've got folks who are caregivers in their mid-70s of their 102-year-old parents.
Oof. How does that work?
Well, we used to be a sandwich generation. Now we're a club sandwich generation.
Because they've got grandchildren too.
They've got great-grandchildren in some cases. And so we really see these care relationships and these interrelationships changing. But what we haven't really had is a way to stop that kind of gloss over what should be a family and what should happen, to get into actually some of those real conversations and grasp, okay, who's really going to be in a good place to do what? Let's not set people up for a lack of success. So the reprobate may be funny.
Oh.
And so maybe the thing that they contribute is some funny time over a cup of coffee with mom. And it really, besides, it was always her good son in her heart, even though just he was misunderstood by everybody else, right? So maybe he's the one that does the puzzles and the crossword puzzles with her. And that social connection, that's important too.
Okay, let me circle back to that club sandwich line, because we're used to hearing about the sandwich generation where, if you're in the middle, you're dealing with older parents and still with your own kids. But the club sandwich has got multiple levels. So you're potentially talking about 70-year-old parents who are dealing with their parents and their own children and their own grandchildren.
Yes.
That's a lot to juggle.
It's a lot to juggle. And these relationships are iterative too. So it's often who needs help when. And sometimes you have a triggering event and then you're going to need help forever on. And that's very true if you have a fall and break a hip, or there's a diagnosis of dementia, something like that, or a cancer diagnosis that's really changed health. But it doesn't mean that the other person in that relationship has changed. They may want you to be active and healthy in golf. And so we have to think about what needs to support a person when. What we often see is that the spouse of a person who needs help ends up having a medical crisis of their own, because the I can do it myself, or I don't want to confront it, or I don't want to start asking for roles to change, can lead to physical and emotional breakdown.
Let me get your advice on how devious we're allowed to be. For example, let's say mom is 90 and she still wants to drive.
Yes.
And that scares the hell out of you to let mom out there on the roads. But legally, she still has her driver's license. Should you lie about, oh, sorry, the car's not working today? Should you hide her keys? Should you take the battery out of the key? How much of this should you do?
So in the book, I do a couple of different things. I sort of help you landscape what your situation is going to be like, and with humor. It's important to know that the book is funny on purpose, because some of the things that we do are also funny, and you kind of have to have a bit of a laugh as you're going through some of these challenging situations. So I often rank the types of conversations. If your dad is like this, try this approach. If your dad is like this, try this approach. And then there's usually the approach called the nuclear option. If you do this, it might blow up your relationship, but if you really need to. And driving is one of those issues where we have a lot of strategies. I've had alternators taken out. I've had the car that needs to go to the shop. The key doesn't quite fit in the lock anymore. Someone's going to borrow the car. I mean, there's many different ways that you can do modification to let people get comfortable with other forms of transportation. How you approach it depends on your own opinions and ethics and families. But what I would say is most people don't want to cause harm. And so the book has a lot of harm reduction strategies in it.
When you say you've had, does that mean you have employed these strategies in your own family dynamic?
I can neither confirm nor deny that that's the case.
Well, I think I know what that means. Okay, but in case they're watching, you don't want to fess up that you've done this.
We were the primary supporters for several sets of grandparents and a great aunt and great uncle. And my mom was my age, 52, when she retired from teaching. Not really retired. She stopped to become a full-time caregiver to these 6 individual older adults, and driving was certainly one of those issues. Now, if you're in an urban center, things like Uber are fantastic because they don't make a person feel dependent, and assuming they've got money and assuming that that's a comfortable thing. But the old taxi cab style was complicated when you had to manage cash and worried about it, and when you're trying to figure out how best to do that. But if you can have something like Uber and you send that from your office, in North Bay, and you're picking up your mother in Barrie, all you have to do is send a car. So some of these types of things in urban environments are easier, harder in rural communities.
Yeah, because for us it's a safety issue, but for them it's freedom.
It's a huge
You know,
issue.
you're basically telling them, give up the freedom that you have understood for the last 75 years of your life. That's a hard thing to do to somebody.
And the all or nothing approach is something that we try to avoid in the book, right? So mostly you can help with reduction of things, right? Don't drive at night. The roads are really slippery. The freezing rain is going to start. I need to change the tires. And what we see is that women, particularly for driving, self-limit. Men sometimes need a technological or an automotive reason to self-limit, and they'll get there too. So then we know that older drivers who are in a small community, just kind of making their way around at 30 kilometers an hour in a rural village, they're not the risk. They're not the risk.
Yeah.
And in fact, if you look at who the worst drivers are, it's often, young men speeding down highways that are actually the risk. So understanding that we're not just assuming because they're older that they're a bad driver, typically that's not the case. But let's just see if we can do some harm reduction along the way.
Let's talk about guilt along the way. Here's another excerpt from the book. Guilt, you write, is a weird emotion. And as awful as it is to experience, it actually comes from a positive place of morality and right doing. If you feel guilty, it can be a red flag that you should examine a particular situation or action more deeply. Think of it as a bit of an emotional divining rod, telling you that something lying beneath needs exploring. Okay, this sort of gets to the fact that this is all new stuff for a lot of people, right? By the time you're in your, whatever it is, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, dealing with older parents, it's new responsibilities for you. So how do you know if you're doing the right thing?
Well, you don't. But here's what you try to think to yourself. I think of it as Maslow's hierarchy, okay? Is food and shelter and safety, are we getting those things sorted out? And a lot of those issues are actually at the core of it. Is mom eating? Right? Is there a wound that needs care? Because skin breakdown is one of those things that's really important. Am I managing physical pain? Then you kind of work your way up to self-actualization. And what we know is loneliness and social isolation is as bad, we've talked about this before, as smoking 15 cigarettes a day and can take up to 8 years off your life. So these things are all important. What I would offer is you can't be everything to everyone. And what is it that you can self-audit? What are you going to be good at doing? Who else is in your circle that can be good at doing some things? And then where are community-based services? It doesn't have to always be you, right? If you're feeling guilty, it probably means you need to assess what's on your plate that you're not good at, what isn't being done, and where can you get some extra help from organizations to assist you.
How do you start that conversation, though, with a parent who says, look, I've taken perfectly good care of myself for 85 years and I don't need you sticking your nose in my business? How do you start that?
That was kind of the premise of the book. And everyone has the right to say, you know what, it's my life, get out. Unless they have a mental capacity issue. And the challenge here is there's about 7 to 10 years between the signs of dementia and a diagnosis of dementia. 7 to 10 years. And some of those things locate themselves around risk and understanding about how bad a decision is. And that's the dance that we all have to do. But part of what I usually like to ask is, how can you come at it in a non-threatening way? So if you want your parents to do powers of attorney, or if you want them to think about a decision they're making, maybe ask their advice instead of you telling them what to do. It usually puts them on their back feet because they're ready for being told that it's their fault or that they have to do something. You could say something like, Mom, it's tax season, or, it's time for me to rethink my wills. And so have you done them? I would love your advice on how to do that.
That's clever.
A good strategy, yeah.
Kind of a entry through the side door as opposed to the front door.
It's their role typically to tell you what to do. Let them. And then it opens up a conversation. So this book is full of those non-confrontational techniques with a few of the nuclear options in there.
Well, I mean, some of these questions are very tricky. I'm just going through the list of the table of contents right now. You've got 27 questions in here. What if my parent is toxic? Like, what if you have an awful relationship with your parent? Do you actually have a legal, moral, ethical responsibility to intervene?
a lot of relationships are toxic. And that's one of the things I wanted to write this book about, because when we get out there, there's this assumption that all families are lovely and loving and have great relationships. What if your father was a horrible human being and abused you, and you're the only child? And I get those questions a lot. And I say, are you legally required? Well, in some jurisdictions, people may be surprised, and Ontario is one of them. We actually have something called filial obligation laws. Put my lawyer hat on there for a minute. And you may actually be financially required to contribute. Now, it's almost never used. It's very, very rarely used. But in circumstances where you may have $10 million and your dad is destitute, you may be looked at to help. Mostly it's about relationships that are sort of social and ethical and moral. And I kind of help you think through that, because in some cases you may actually decide the best thing I can do is walk away because he abused me and I'm worried I'm going to abuse him.
What if it's the other way around? What if dad's got $10 million and dad just got himself a new girlfriend and wants to leave what you thought was coming to you to her? How do you intervene there?
Exactly. And when we think about things, there's either predatory marriages or dad just having a good time. I had a case that I was supporting a family on. The guy was in his 90s, went to Vegas, got married to, kind of the Playboy bunny. It wasn't actually, but nearly so.
Somebody not age appropriate.
Let's just say there was about a 70-year age difference between the two.
Okay.
And a very different style of life difference. The kids who were in their 60s at that point, had the reaction that you might imagine. And in that particular case, dad said, yeah, you know what? I made my money. My kids have been living off of me forever. They should get a job. I have this great opportunity. I'm going to live my life, and was perfectly mentally capable. And I thought, well, Vegas is made for bad decisions. And in his case, he was living it up. Mostly that's not what happens. Mostly what you see is some type of undue influence or abuse. But you also have to ask yourself, what are your expectations and what are they based on? Because they may not be based on anything that's really going to happen.
Some of these chapters are very, very, well, let's put it this way. They deal with very delicate issues.
Sure.
What if your parent is an alcoholic? What if your parent is starting to show signs of dementia? What if your parent is suddenly incontinent? How do you handle all of that?
Again, I think it's about gathering yourself up and looking at the situation, kind of both what's in front of you. Mom won't go out because she's worried about, fecal incontinence.
Yeah.
Literally, I can't go outside because I'm worried. Okay, there's actually things you can do about that. And you need to know about products, and you need to know about services, and you need to know that Botox, who knew? Botox down there can make a big difference. Unless you spent your life learning these things, how would you know? So understanding both what's behind mom not going out, having the conversation, and her even admitting to you that she's worried she's going to poop her pants, that conversation is important.
Let's finish up on this. I suspect for a lot of the kids in the club sandwich generation, which is a new term that you've laid on us today, this is a conversation starter they just really have tried to put off for as long as possible.
Absolutely.
They don't want to have it.
No way.
So give us some advice. How do you even start to get your head around the notion that you got to have this conversation, because it's time?
You got to go to the house. That is the most important thing.
Their turf.
Absolutely.
Not yours.
Not your turf. You need to go to the house and you need to make a cup of tea. You need to open the fridge and see what the state of the fridge is. You need to go downstairs and see if the laundry is there. You need to go have a look at the bathroom and the living room, and you need to not look like you're inspecting it in the way that you do. Because it's important to see how people are actually living. If mom is actually not able to sleep in her bed because she can't get in and out of it anymore, she's not going to tell you that. You need to see it. So you got to lay eyes on it. And then you need to not tell them what to do.
Yeah, diplomacy is really helpful here, right?
You didn't like it when you were 20, and you probably still don't like it now. Ask questions. Hey, what's working for you right now? Ask them about their friends. How's Mrs. So-and-so and Mr. Such and Such? How are they doing right now? They'll probably tell you. That's a nice way in. Of you, oh, they fell. Oh, he can't get out of bed. Oh, he's in a retirement home. Oh, he's got cognitive impairment. Oh, he's got hearing loss. Tell me a bit more about that. Ask about other people so that they settle into relationships, and they will express to you worries. People repeat what they're worried about listen for things that they're repeating, reflect back to them about that. So listen to understand, not to answer.
See, this is why we keep having you back on this program, because you've got lots of good advice that we need to hear. And a lot of it is between the pages of this book. Let's talk about aging parents, a real-life guide to solving problems with 27 essential conversations. That's Laura Tamblyn Watts. Laura, as always, great to have you here at TVO.
Great to be here.
A love of animals and nature motivated Debbie Nightingale of the Oat Goat Farm to leave city life behind.
I'm Farmer Debbie. We created this crazy magical place called Oat Goat Farm, which kind of has evolved over the years because people have a real desire to join us out here in nature with animals and all that great stuff. I always dreamed of being in the country, always, because I've always loved animals. But I married a man who was not so excited about the country or animals or dirt or any of that stuff. He retired, decided he did like animals, that they were okay. I said, fantastic, I want to get some goats. His jaw dropped. And I brought home my first 4 little Nigerian dwarf goats. So the Nigerian dwarf goats are one of 2 pygmy goats. Pygmies are one and the Nigerians are the other. The Nigis, as we call them in the trade, are the dairy goats. And that's sort of how we started. So we had our 4 little goats. Friends and family heard about it. They called and said, could we come and see the goats? And we said, of course, come share our joy, because these guys are incredible. And what happened was they came, and then they told people about it. And so every Saturday, 30 or 40 people would show up at the farm in Campbellford and say, we're here to see the goats. Until it dawned on us that we weren't the only ones who really craved being outside and in the country and nature, where you don't hear ambulances and police cars and noise and all that other stuff. And that's really and truly how it all started. Everyone's so disconnected, I feel like. I mean, I really do believe that. You know, when you're sitting in a car in Toronto and you can't move and somebody's honking at you or you're honking at them, you're so... I don't know how to describe it other than disconnected. Whereas when you can be here and you can take a deep breath and you can sort of be in sync with the animals, it's a different plane. It's a different level. It's a quietude. It gives you a chance to really think and process stuff. There are real scientific benefits to interacting with animals. They can reduce your stress hormones. The cortisol actually can come down if you're interacting with goats. That's for sure. If you really are able to sort of get into the relaxation and the connection, you end up breathing at the same rate as the goat, and that calms them down as well. They force you to be in the moment, and that's more important than anything. You know, you sort of forget all the other stuff, hopefully you're able to do that, but they force you to do that because they are that. They are in the moment. They're very present, and they encourage you to do the same. It's a very large property. I don't know how it happened, but we have a very large property. Like the whole east section was not really being used. And so one of my kids said to me, why don't you make a disc golf course? I said, what's disc golf? And he showed me. And I teamed up with a fellow in Peterborough who's a disc golf course designer who's amazing, and he carved out a gorgeous disc golf course. And so that way other people are coming, more people are coming to use the farm, and it makes me so happy to see people traipsing back and forth, sitting here. They sit in front of my house, they have a picnic. It's the most wonderful thing. We purposely do not charge admission just to come in and walk around. We thought it was really important for anybody to be able to come and see the animals. We do charge if you want to do an experience, but we really also wanted people to be able to come without issue. So we often get single moms in the summer with their kids just coming and hanging out at the bench and watching the babies play and all that stuff. And although we don't advertise it, if somebody calls and says, I really want to do a such and such, but I really just don't have the money, we find a way to work with them. I had a very close relative passed away Sunday night, and Monday I was really kind of I couldn't find somewhere to sit. And so I went and I literally sat on the hay bale in the middle of the horses, and they comforted me. You know, one of them actually put her head, like wrapped her head around me. It's like, it's like, wow. I mean, my favorite thing, first of all, we get people here who cry before they even get to the goats because they're so excited. And then they cry again with the goats. It's the most beautiful thing, though. And they're a bit embarrassed, and we say, no, it's wonderful. But sometimes, you know, like a woman will bring her husband who doesn't really want to be here, and by the end, you can't get him out of the goat playground because a goat has, you know, nestled into his arms, and just he falls in love. And it's the most beautiful thing. We have alpacas, we have horses, we have Icelandic horses, which are really cool. We have a great big mule named Lucy May. We have a little miniature horse. We've got chickens, of course. And we just got Kuni pigs, who we've completely fallen in love with.
I just want to cuddle one.
There are sometimes people who are a little bit nervous or nervous of one particular kind of animal. And so we never push anybody. We'll say, you know, want to wait outside? Do you want to stand beside me? Like, how do you want to handle this? And so, and often if you give them a little bit of time and a breath, and they see the animals calm and whatever, they'll come in and they'll, you know, sort of get over their fears. So, and that's quite beautiful actually when that happens. I feel so lucky that we can give this experience to people and see the joy that it brings to them. We had a high-powered PR firm call us, and they said, we want to do goat yoga for a client, but we want to check it out first to see what it's like. So I said, okay, good, come. We set them up. There was about 8 of them. Lovely people, but, you know, real high-powered Toronto people. And I came down to watch at one point, and all of a sudden, I saw 8 of the goats out of 10 do kind of a semicircle around the woman who was the company owner. I'd never seen that before. She said, my mother died 2 days ago. I think they were comforting me. And so that stuff happens, and there's a bazillion stories like that. And it's just, it blows me away. Every time, every time.
Tomorrow on the agenda.
In terms of the conflict between China and the United States, nothing will change because that conflict isn't about Taiwan. That conflict is basically Game of Thrones.
That's tomorrow on the agenda.